Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and I'm back again with another episode of the Shooting Cars podcast. I don't remember, I think this might be our 25th episode, so congratulations to us. I'm gonna grab my water. Not a whole lot to talk about this week, and there's sort of a reason for that. So, as you guys may know, I live in Chicago, and this week was rough with weather. Right now, I think it's like 12 degrees outside. Feels like 1. Let me see what the app says. It says 18, feels like 4, so it actually warmed up a little bit. But the snow has been horrible. The driving has been horrible. And unfortunately, that means I can't really film reviews. So I had to cancel 3 reviews this weekend. I had to cancel all the reviews I had scheduled. I did film on Friday, and I filmed last Sunday after I had already filmed the podcast, so I didn't really talk about that. So, well, first of all, hope you guys enjoyed the last podcast. It was a long one. It's our longest podcast to date. Max is a really great friend, and I'm glad that we got to sit down and talk. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But, yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to think of all the cars I've driven since then. So I did the Dodge Ram, the 1996 Dodge Ram. That was Max's. That car, or that truck, really meant a lot to me because, as you guys probably, well, you may or may not know, I used to own one. That was my very first car. It was a 1998 Dodge Ram with the 5.9 instead of the 5.2. The one I reviewed had a 5.2 V8. And the one I reviewed was manual. Mine was automatic. The one I reviewed was a crew cab. Mine was a single cab. Whatever. There were inconsistencies, but that body style, that's what I grew up driving. That was my first car, and so that review meant a lot. Then the next day, I filmed a 2010 Subaru Outback in manual. I did not realize that they actually sold that body style of Subaru Outback. It's where the Outback sort of became its own thing besides the Legacy. The Outbacks before that were kind of Legacies with body kits, and so they actually fully switched it to its own thing for that body style. But they still made them in manual for a little bit. Manual with a power parking brake. So that was interesting to film. Then, of course, I have school during the week, and then I filmed Friday. I filmed a Toyota, and I drove a 2015 BMW 228i X-Drive. So it's a little 2 Series coupe. It's a little tiny car, which is one of my favorite BMWs made right now. The M2 is by far my favorite car, really, and that'll be pretty apparent in that video. Although it's not an M2, it's the same chassis as an M2, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it was really interesting to drive a 2 Series, a little 2 Series, in all-wheel drive, which was pretty interesting. It didn't feel all-wheel drive. It's just weird that they make that. It's a little coupe that, it's just a little two-door that is all-wheel drive. It's so weird. And then the last car I drove, so I only drove 3 cars this week, which is a little bit less than usual, was a... Why am I blanking? Oh, a 2017 Chevy Ss. So the one that I drove actually had Holden badges put onto it, which make me... I don't understand why you would want to put Australian badges on an SS. And like the whole thing about the SS is that it was sort of a sleeper sedan, and then you put this badge on it, this Holden badge that no one here in America knows what it is, and you kind of take away the sleeper aspect. So I don't know, take that as you will. But that was a lot of fun to drive. It was unfortunately automatic. They do sell those in manual, or they did, because they don't make them anymore. But they did sell those in manual, and I drove an automatic one. Still broke the back end loose more than a handful of times, which I don't know if that'll make the final cut of the video. But I was out on the test track, and I gave it the beans, and It was pretty cold that day, so it was pretty easy to get the back end to kick out. I fell in love with that thing. If you look at my, actually my TikTok, I do have a TikTok account. It's shooting cars. There's a video of the exhaust up on there right now, of that Chevy Ss. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, that's the only cars I got to film this week, which is depressing because I had set up for this weekend a car that I've been trying to track down for 2 years. I've been trying to get this car tracked down, which hopefully I do have it set up to film it a week from today, or a week from, yeah, today, which, spoiler alert, this is Sunday. I filmed these on Sunday so I can get them out on Monday. Anyway, so I should be filming it. I'm not going to say what it is because if it doesn't end up going through, I don't want to disappoint you guys. But it's a cool, quirky car, not an expensive car. It's 90s JDM, so, well, not JDM, 90s Japanese, but USDM. Because JDM means Japanese domestic market, which were cars that we never got here. So JDM really only refers to like a handful of cars I've driven. But anyway, so the weather here has been absolutely terrible. I do have some shots. I went out I'm talking too fast today, man. I don't know. It's Sunday. I haven't left the house in a long time because it's been so cold. I had to shovel my driveway and all that stuff. But I went out with my good friend Alex Nagy. You guys remember he bought the FC with back seats. He has an Infiniti G37, which I should be filming soon. It's a sedan and manual. I believe it's 2011, which is interesting. And then he also has an RSX. And so we took that out in the snow, got some video, got some shots of that. So that was super fun. But it sucks, man, because, it's starting to hinder my actual business, which is car reviews. And it wasn't the fact that, the conditions were so bad that I couldn't see, but it's like whenever I film a car in the freezing cold, I usually end up cutting corners one way or another. Not on purpose. I'm not like, oh, I'm not going to do this because it's cold. It's just like I'm standing out in the cold and then I get 5 shots of the exterior when I usually try to shoot for 10. And so it's like, it's just like stuff like that because I'm so freezing cold. And now that I have the short sleeve shirts that I wear in the reviews, I don't know, I'm stuttering so bad today. Now that I wear the short sleeve shirts, I have to actually really let the cars warm up before I can even like start talking and driving and my breath goes away. You know what I mean? And so, also with that is I have to let the car fully warm up the interior, because I can't drive with the fan on high because then the whole video you're going to hear. So I have to warm up the interior too. I always warm up the engines. I always warm up the engines. But sometimes when I used to wear the sweatshirt during the reviews, it was sort of hit or miss, but it is what it is. But hopefully I have some good cars lined up. I'm going to be reaching out to a lot of people this week, hopefully to get some new 2020s on the channel that aren't Toyotas. But yeah, also, if you're in the Dallas area, please let me know if you have a car for me to review. I'm planning on going down to Dallas the first week of March. And so it would be a midweek event, unfortunately. But if you have a car for me to review, because the one that I'm set up to review right now might fall through. It's supposed to get a new engine. And the owner said it should be fine by then, but as it's a rotary, it's an FD, and so it's supposed to get a new engine between now and the first week of March, and if I know anything about rotary shops, that's not going to work. Even though putting a new motor in, for me and the guys, we took like 3 hours. Shops, they operate on their own schedule, and you're kind of at the will of them. So, if anyone's in Dallas and is open to letting me review their car or film their car or whatever, let me know. Shoot me a text, email, whatever. My information's in the description. We'll set something up, because then if I at least have something for sure, then I'll book my plane tickets and I'll for sure be down there. But right now, the one and only thing I'd be going down for is iffy, so I haven't bought my plane tickets yet. So yeah, that's what I want to say is, if you're in Dallas, or if you're willing to travel to Dallas, I would be going. I'm sorry, I'm clicking this cap and it's right in the microphone. I'm staying in Dallas with a friend, or I would be if I do go. And so, if you're in Houston or Austin, I'd love to go, but I'm only going to be there really for 2 days, and so I don't really have the time or luxury to travel to Houston and Austin, or wherever else. So if you're willing to travel to Dallas, the first Wednesday of March. Shoot. I have my phone right here. What am I doing? Let me look it up. I think it's. Let me zoom out here. So that would be March 4th. If you're in Dallas or willing to be in Dallas, March 4th, for me to review your car. I'd love to meet you, film, whatever it is, whatever car you have. Let me know, because obviously I'm down to film whatever car I can get my hands on, and that would make the trip a lot more worth it. So these podcasts are also going to be, I'm going to shout out when I'm going places. I have a lot of travel plans this year. Hopefully should go out to Ohio sometime in May again, go out and see Ian again. I'm really looking forward to that. I just got to kind of lock down dates. I might be going to the East Coast this summer, and I want to go West Coast in the fall. Hopefully for 7 stock, and then do some stuff in SoCal before 7 stock or after 7 stock. I haven't really decided yet. But I'm graduating college in May, so I'm not going to have any schedule after that, which will be really, really nice. And I'll be in Colorado in May as well, end of May. I'll be in Denver. So if you have a car in Denver, end of May, let me know. So Denver and Dallas, let me know, please. Because I'd love to film, whatever it is, and I love the travel aspect of it. I like saying that I've reviewed cars in multiple different states. That's very cool to me. What else was I was gonna talk about something. So this is actually coming out on Martin Luther King Day. Happy Martin Luther King Day. I hope you got to school or work off, whatever it may be. I know schools usually do it off. I'm not sure about work. Because now that I think about it, the only 2 people I talked to about not having to work on Monday were teachers. So, yeah, I don't know. But if you're unaware, here in America, if you're watching abroad, there was a guy named Martin Luther King who led the civil rights movement, essentially to get rights for African Americans here in the U.S. I believe it took place in the 60s. I'm not a history expert, and so that day, I believe it's just like the 3rd Monday of January or whatever. It's like one of those moving holidays. It's like where it's based off the Mondays. Is dedicated to him, and so that's really all I'm gonna say about that. Feel free to look it up if you're not from the U.S. But the only thing I did look up for it was I Googled last night what kind of car Martin Luther King drove, and I didn't really get a response. But I did find that he rode a lot in his friend's white Cadillac, because there's a civil rights museum, I believe, in Tennessee. I want to say Tennessee. And they have a similar white Cadillac at their museum. They're like, Dr. Martin Luther King used to ride in one of these similar. This isn't the actual one. So yeah, a little fun fact for you. Martin Luther King had a fancy for white Cadillacs. Which 60s Cadillacs, I mean, we're talking land yachts. Those were huge. Hopefully, I'd like to start filming some of those, man. I mean, what was I looking at today? I was looking at a 60s Barracuda. There's one for sale for like 20 grand, and the front half is just destroyed. I mean, like destroyed. And so I was thinking about that, and I'm like, ah, man, I really want to drive old muscle. I haven't really driven any old muscle cars. The oldest muscle car is well, I drove a '65 Mustang, but that's not really a muscle car. That's a pony car. I don't know what you really consider muscle cars. I've driven a '67 Mustang, an '86 Mustang. Still need to drive an SN95. I haven't driven one of those yet. Huh. But yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I've always loved older muscle cars, but I've never driven one. Never really been in or around them too much. I know that Mopar Hemis were orange, and 360s cubic inches. I don't know. I'm not really a muscle car guy, but I've always been kind of fascinated by them. Um, which is so funny because I was talking with my friends the other day, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really into like classics. Like I've just never like swooned over them. Let's say I seriously think I have like a car addiction, um, but I've never really been like, oh, I've never like had a poster of muscle cars. My dream muscle car would be a '69 Charger or '68 Charger, something like that. I think just because I grew up with a Dodge, I don't know, it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, I don't know. I'd want to start driving those a little bit. I mean, I want to drive everything. That's getting back to it. Why I have like a legit car addiction is I so going back into high school. I remember my film teacher, because high school's teachers, but college is professors. My film teacher. It sounds weird saying teacher now. I've been in college for 4 years. Um, so my film teacher knew a journalist, or I don't know, it might have just been a dude. But basically, he realized he had a movie addiction because he would go see movies like almost every day. At the movie theater, he would go and see movies. And it got to the point where he wasn't even seeing like good movies. He was just going just to see a movie. Like you know what I mean? Like it's not like he was going to see all these great movies. He was just going, he would see horrible movies just because they're going to the movies. And so I always think about that. That must have been 5 or 6 years ago I heard about this. My teacher told me this. And so I've been thinking about it a lot more recently because I'm so intrigued by average and terrible cars, if that makes sense. A lot of people will go, oh, why would you spend the time to review this? Why would you spend the time to review that? Why even make a video about that? I actually recently got a comment. What was it? What was it on? Let me see here. I got some comment that was like, why would you spend the time? Like the 2020s new and different and blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Come on. I don't know. Sorry. Try not to have dead air. Oh, I had someone fight me about CD players. Had someone comment on the Lexus LS 430 of 2005. And I said that modern day cars don't need CD players. Because they really don't. I mean, except for like boomers. But besides that, I don't know. Okay, unsure why you would review a 2018 BMW X1 in 2020. Just saying the 2020 model has improved significantly on the 2018 model. So, yeah, so this guy, David, was like, oh, why would you review that? Because I'm interested in it. I would love to review every single year of the X1. I would love to drive every year of every car. That's not going to happen. That is physically impossible. And so my mom asked me a while back, a couple months ago, she's like, so what happens when you run out of cars? And I said, how? How would that happen? And that's the thing is that like literally my goal my end goal with reviews is to drive every car, to have driven every car made. And so I know that that's impossible. I know that that's illogical, and I know that that'll never ever happen. It's physically impossible for that to happen. Like all the concept cars, all the one-off cars. I mean, it's just physically impossible to drive a version of every car made. It's impossible. But that is what I strive for. And so I've had people message me or talk to me, or just like friends, just be like, hey, would you want to review this second year Honda CR-V? And my reaction is always yes, unless I've done that. I've gotten to that point with like RX-7s where it's like, hey, do you want to review my S5? And it's like, I've done 3 of them, maybe 4 of them. I've driven every year of the FC. It's the only car I've ever done that with. I've driven every single year, that's really cool to me. But I want to burp. There it is. There I burped. So that's where I think my addiction comes in, because like recently I want to review I have set up to review, or one of my reviews set up this weekend was a first generation Dodge Neon. Those little economy cars that everyone used, abused, and threw away. I really want to drive those. What was it like what was a fresh economy car like in the late 90s, early 2000s? What was Mopar what was Chrysler doing? What was Dodge doing? And even more to the point is, I know the fact that the first gen Neons kind of were the last real true economy car from Dodge. I mean, the Dart that they put out, or they just stopped production on the Dart, but the Dart they put out from 2013 to 2017 or whatever, that wasn't really an economy car. The Neons, first and second gen really, the Neons were such economy cars. The SRT4 was a performance version, a 2.4 liter turbo. It had manual rear windows. I mean, it's just so interesting to, for me to figure that stuff out. And it's nice for me also, like why would I drive a 2018 Bmw X1? Honestly, the reason I would want to drive that is so when I do drive a 2020, when I do drive a 2021, I can see, oh, they made this better. That's what I love to see. I love to see the improvements, and it's almost this sort of, like, have you ever seen like a big rock face? Like if you've gone to the Grand Canyon, which I have not personally, but I have been to like the Badlands. Erosion, that's what I'm thinking of. This sort of natural erosion where water flowing over this rock face for hundreds of thousands of years has formed this shape. Take that idea, put it onto a smaller scale. That's what I like seeing in cars. They get more refined over the years, and then a new idea sprouts. And then it's refined. New idea, refined. And it's so interesting to watch, like what we're seeing now. Back in the 90s, I believe it was 1993, they required a airbag. Legally, you have to have an airbag. And so from 93 on, we see these giant pillow airbags in cars. These giant, look at any old Ford Taurus. Look at anything from the 90s. You're going to see a giant pillowy airbag. And so, as you watch through the decades, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Look at a 2020 Mazda Miata wheel. I think the airbag's like this big. And it looks great. It's covered in leather, has a nice little Mazda badge on it. They've figured it out to the point where you can have an airbag and have it look stylish. But this took, 25 years to do, to sort of naturally come to this end result. Similarly, in 2018, the government they mandated that every car made after, I think it was March or May of 2018, legally has to have a backup camera. It's a new safety thing. If you're coming into the U.S., if you're bringing a car to the U.S., it has to have a backup camera if it's manufactured after, let's just say, May of 2018. And so, a lot of 2018 models or 2017 models and even 2019 models, that sort of era where that became law, you'll see a lot of cars with weird backup camera locations because the original design, the original concept that was drawn 5 years ago didn't account for that. And so, for instance, let's go back to the Mazda Miata, the ND. The backup camera is right smack dab in the middle of the rear bumper. And so unless you buy a black ND, which I don't know if they sell, I think they sell in like a graphite, but I don't think they sell like jet black. It's just this black circle in the middle of the bumper, and it's very obvious, especially on a white or a red one. And so now it's going to be interesting to kind of follow that because, over time they're going to refine, and I don't think we're ever going to see back in 25 years. I don't think we're ever going to see it back. I don't think we're ever going to see a camera on a car. I think they're going to integrate it so well. Another case of this would be the radar cruise control. This isn't a mandate, but it became a thing so quickly. First one company had it. I found out Mercedes has had it forever. And so the smartest way of really doing this is to put a sensor in the front grille. Our Mazda CX-5, I point up there because my garage is up and to the left of me. It has the Mazda badge on the front looks like it's behind glass, and that's because it really is, because that's the radar sensor. So they integrated it very well. I believe it's Hyundai's or Genesis or maybe Jaguars. No, it's definitely Hyundai's and Kia's. The front grille, they made the sensor the same pattern as the front grille, but obviously a front grille has holes. And so it looks like this odd square in the front of the car that it doesn't look quite right. Jaguar does this because it looks like a phone sideways, and then the Jaguar logo here, but this whole thing's the sensor. And so it looks really weird. Manufacturers don't really know how to hide the cameras yet, how to smooth it out, how to make it less intrusive, but they need to have the technology. So backup cameras and radar sensors, we're going to start to see, they're going to hide them better and better and make them more stylish. That's the stuff I love to see. I could do this all day, and I just might. Thinking of the Mazda Rx-7. Let's talk about that because I know a fair bit about those. Series 4 and Series 5. Series 4 was 86 to 88, and Series 5 was 89 to 91. Series 4, the bezel that goes around the radio, the shroud, is a hard plastic. If you try to take it off, you're going to shatter it. Same with the FBs, too, but we'll use the FCs as an example. In the Series 5, they made it like this rubberized material. So it's actually a good upgrade for a Series 4 RX-7 to upgrade to a Series 5 bezel because they don't break. It's cool stuff like that I love seeing. And so when someone says, why would you want to drive this older car? I want to see where it started to give me a better idea of where it ended or where it is currently. It might not even be the end. And so that's why, I think I'm addicted to cars, man. I mean, I'll drive the most boring of the boring cars, and I still love it. It's just so I don't know why I'm not really that way about anything else. I don't really have any other main hobbies, and that's starting to worry me a little bit. Just because I don't want to burn myself out. But not to get depressing. It's so interesting to me. And so, it's interesting to me the social construct behind cars and the government. The government plays such a big role in the cars that we drive. I mean, let's think of an example here. Well, the government mandated stuff. They've required legally, that we had to have an airbag. Similarly, my recording stopped for the video. Hi, I'm back. Similarly, down in Mexico, they didn't require an airbag till I believe 2013, something of the sort. And so Nissan sold the exact same Sentra because it didn't have an airbag and it was cheap to make for since 89 to 2013, something like that. I mean, something crazy. Same with the original Volkswagen Beetle was sold up until I believe 2001. You could buy a 2001 Volkswagen Beetle that looked almost identical to a 1975. Good band, by the way. But yeah, it's just crazy how the government shapes it, how there's trends, there's car trends. Right now a car trend is this sort of split line behind the rear windows that sort of separates the roof and the lower part of the trim, like the RAV4 does this, and a lot of vehicles do this, which interestingly enough, the other day I saw a Mazda CX-5 that someone custom painted to be two-tone, which is a brand new CX-5, like the new body style, which is rather interesting. That was very interesting to see. But yeah, I just got off on a huge tangent. I did not plan to talk that much about that, but I don't know, man. I love cars, and that's why it doesn't upset me. But like when people say like, "Why would you spend the time to do this?" It's like I like this. Like I find this stuff interesting, and I hope you do. And if you don't, you don't, and we'll go on our separate ways. So that's the other thing is that I have a lot of friends that'll say like, "Hey man, like I haven't gotten around to seeing this review yet, or I haven't gotten around to seeing this video yet," and I definitely appreciate everyone supporting me, and of course I mean that's my friends are they're my rock, but I don't expect everyone to consume all of my content. I think a big thing for me is I heard it off the Joe Rogan podcast, who heard it from, I want to say it was like Gary V. Who was it? I don't know who it was. Anyway, I heard it on Joe Rogan. But he's like, just put content out there. Just, if you make it, put it out there. Because odds are, if you took the time to make something, someone wants to take the time to view it, to watch it, to experience it. And while, yeah, that's probably not a big pool, it's still a pool. There's still some people for it. And my other reason for reviewing everything is I don't know why. I have this almost sick and twisted fantasy of I'll drive a car. Well, first of all, I never know what's going to blow up. I never know what's going to get good views. Current model cars like 2020s, like pretty basic consumer cars that the average person would buy, those usually get views. But other cars just blow up for no reason. A 2007 BMW that I did is one of my top earners. I don't know why. It's strange. But I have this getting back to my fantasy. I have this fantasy of just someone who owns a TV network or someone who is a higher up at Road and Track car, these big car automotive companies. I just have this idea that like they're surfing the internet one night, and what if they're obsessed with, let's just use the Volkswagen Beetle like I just mentioned. Let's say one more time. Let's say the owner of a big car magazine. What's a fake name so I don't like call anyone out? Wheels Magazine. Let's say the CEO of Wheels Magazine loves Volkswagen Beetles. I don't have a Volkswagen Beetle review on my channel. I drove one time, but it was just because I was DDing for a friend. So I would miss that opportunity to get him as a viewer, him or her as a viewer. I would miss out, and so that's my kind of thought process of I want to film as many different things because I want to have something for everyone. And so if a higher up, at a company is like, man, I love, well, if they love RX-7s, this is the channel. But I love, BMW 2 Series. I love the 2 Series. I watch videos about the 2 Series BMWs all the time. Well, in a couple of weeks when I release that review, when it's all done, I'm going to have something for them. And so it's all about sort of casting the widest net that I can. And so that's also why I review as many cars as I do. I don't know, man. I just feel like life is so short. I just want to drive cars and work on cars and do fun stuff with cars. And also, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this. I have an unhealthy obsession with well, I have a spreadsheet that is every car that I've ever driven, and it's so satisfying to just watch it grow and grow and grow. As of right now, we're sitting at 418 different cars that I've driven. And so, I don't know if it'll... Can I... Sorry, audio listeners, go watch on YouTube, youtube.com/shootingcars. Oh, it's on Edges. I'm not on... Wait. Oh, that's sheet 2. Okay, hold on. Sorry. I mean, it's just so satisfying to look at all the different cars that I've driven. And so when we're out at the bar, out at dinner, and someone says, hey, have you driven one of these? I can say yes or no. Wow, it looks so much longer on camera. That's what she said. But, yeah. So I'm going to end this podcast pretty much right here. I kind of went on a tangent. Sorry. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Oh, we hit 22,000 subscribers last week. That's amazing, guys. Thank you so much. I mean, it keeps on growing. It's insane. It was a very, very nice day. I made, in December was my biggest paycheck yet, which is just insane. I didn't even think I would make money off of this, which that was a milestone for me. Which was really, really cool. But then also on the same day, so the 3 things happened. I checked my YouTube and I made the biggest check that I have ever made yet for a single month. We hit 22,000 subscribers and we crossed over 200,000 views in 1 month, which is crazy because a year ago at this time I was averaging about 140,000 views a month, which is a lot. It's definitely a lot, but we've gone up 60,000 extra eyeballs, 60,000 extra views per month in a year. I mean, that's growth. And this time last year I was probably around 16,000 subs. No, it's like 15,000. So yeah, I mean, just awesome. It's awesome. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. I really I appreciate you guys. No, I appreciate you guys a lot. And hopefully, man, once this weather turns, I definitely have a lot of good plans for content this year. So, also, last but not least, last closing thoughts. If you guys have any ideas for, this podcast, what you want to see out of the podcast, if I should go back to just doing it whenever I have a guest, or if you like this sort of weekly stuff, please let me know. But hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you're listening, please go check it out on YouTube, youtube.com/shooting cars. Just Google shooting cars, Google Rotary Life, Google Zach Pradle, whatever it is. And you'll find it on there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check it out on Spotify, iTunes, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get podcasts, is pretty much where this podcast can be. Because I got a message last week that someone was like, "Oh, I'm at work, or I'm out and about, but I gotta wait till I get home till I can finish it." And I'm like, "It's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on your phone, audio. If you're going to Walmart, plug it in. Because you don't want to talk to anyone there. I don't. I was there last night. It was horrible. And yeah, so you can get it on the go. get on your phone, listen at work, stuff like that. So, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.